Welcome to today's edition of Our Franklin. My name is Jamie Helen. I'm the Deputy Town Administrator, and today we're joined by the town's Veterans Officer, Dale Kurtz. Dale, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jamie. Glad to be here.
Great. Well, I think what we want to do today is just start off with the quick basics. Veteran services, we hear about it in the news, we hear about it all the time. It's a very important service we offer to the community's residents. Maybe you could give us, our viewers, just a quick background on the mission of your office and some of the basic services that you offer.
Sure. It's a great job. What I get to do is help veterans.
Yeah.
And whether it's working with the VA and the different opportunities we have through the VA system, and the VA has three groups. There's benefits, there's medical, and then cemetery, or working with the state to get through state benefits. My bottom line is a veteran or a dependent has a question or an issue, come and see me, we'll find an answer. So I'll do anything it takes.
With that in mind, why don't you tell our audience your phone number, where you're located at, your email address, so anybody in town or family members or friends can get in touch with you.
Sure. My phone number is 508-613-1315. It's a little bit different than what you might find normally around Franklin, but again, 508-613-1315. My email address, dkurtz@franklin.ma.us. And I'm located at the Franklin Senior Center, 10 Daniel McCahill Street, Franklin, Mass.
Excellent. And, you just touched on a second ago, one thing that's of interest, I think, to hopefully some of our audience members and certainly me is, veteran services, is kind of a complicated network of governmental agencies. You mentioned the VA, and then you've got state benefits, and then there's you here at the local level. And we know all towns, and cities in the area, have their own veterans officer or veterans agent. Maybe you can give our audience a little bit of an understanding of the difference in benefits and, really where the best access points are.
The best access point is your VSO, your Veteran Service Officer, whether you're in Franklin, Bellingham, or whatever community. That's the best point. The VA has three different systems. If you have an issue with filing a claim for benefits, that's one area and one avenue we go down. And I have great points of contact at the VA on the benefit side. Medical, because of HIPAA laws, I don't get as involved, but I'm able to direct people to the right sources and connect them. Again, medical is a little bit different. Then the cemetery, we have great resources here in Franklin. Oteri Funeral Home and Ginley Funeral Home, they both have great relationships with the Bourne National Cemetery. And we also have state cemeteries. And I intercede wherever needed to help people manage through that process. That's always a stressful time. That's where the federal side. On the state side, we cover a lot of the same things. And I left out on the federal side benefits. You talk about education benefits, housing benefits, compensation and claims, which is what I deal mostly with, but there are a wealth of benefits available. On the state side, again, we have education benefits, we have housing support, we have state assistance benefits. Those veterans are widows or widowers who maybe don't have enough to get by on a monthly basis. We have some very tight limits on what we're able to do, but if they're having a problem, come see me. If I can get them qualified, we're able to provide some financial support. Again, education, job training, we have support for that. Anything and everything is available. We have great benefits where select veterans or widows may get a tax abatement on their real estate taxes, may be able to get some benefit on registering their vehicle or paying vehicle tax. It's a wealth. So come see me.
So what does the town actually offer? I mean, I think out of curiosity for our audience, what are the someone comes to see you, how does the town contribute to honoring those who've served?
Right. Well, the town provides me and my support. That's the big thing. Right. So what we do is there is one that assistance benefit is actually paid for by the town. So I come in and I interview the individual. We go through financials that we need to. We do an assessment. And there's a magic formula in the computer somewhere that tells me what I'm able to do. With that, I then submit vouchers through the town, and the town does provide that support. Now, the town does get reimbursed up to 75% of that on an annual basis. So the town fronts it and then gets some reimbursement from the state.
Okay, and that kind of goes to one of my really fun facts of today's episode, which is something
Sure.
we were talking about the other day.
Right.
Tell our audience, which was a mind-blowing number to me, how much money the town actually receives from the federal VA benefits program. I was blown away.
Last year in October,
Yeah.
which is that's when our calendar or our fiscal year ended, we were able to get our stats.
Mm-hmm.
We had $3.7 million come into the town of Franklin for fiscal year 2015
Wow.
to support the veterans that we have in town.
Mm-hmm. And that comes in the services of what kind of stuff?
That's
Just to give our audience some context, because that's a lot of money.
Sure. It's these are funds or monies that these veterans or their dependents have earned.
Mm-hmm.
It's compensation. Someone was injured during their service.
Mm-hmm.
They're eligible for a pension. A lot of the money comes through that. Some is educational benefits. We have veterans here in town who are going to school on the GI Bill, post 9/11 GI Bill or the Montgomery Bill. That's part of the funding. We also get some support for funerals. So some of that is funeral funding where we'll pay up to a certain amount to help someone through that time. So it's we had, I believe it was 317 individuals
Wow.
receive benefits during that time period.
That's incredible. So, on this kind of conversation point, what I'm curious about is just to give our audience a little bit of a idea of what they may experience if maybe they're sitting on the sidelines, maybe they're not accessing, what they've earned with their service time. Give us a little idea of, somebody coming home from Iraq or Afghanistan, one of the more recent conflicts. They walk into the senior center. They're greeted with the smiling face of Dale Kurtz, right? And the folks down at the senior center, take someone through who may not be familiar with the system, what that process looks like and what they may be able to access if they're someone who's just coming home or a family member who's just coming home.
If there's someone just coming home, they come in, we sit down, and we just have a conversation. Where have you been? What have you been doing? Where are you settling? How are things going? What transitions do you have? Are you connected with the VA medical system? What VA benefits are you currently receiving? And then I help them fill out forms to receive a welcome home bonus
Okay.
that is paid for by the state. And there are some steps you have to go through, so my job is to facilitate that for them.
Okay.
If they need to file a claim or update a claim, I help them with that. It's
A medical
it's
claim
really
is what
a
you're
medical.
saying, yeah.
Well, this would be a benefit claim.
Benefit claim. Okay.
Compensation for medical injuries or physical injuries.
That's a lot. That's an incredible amount of service that a lot of people have access to that maybe
Right.
they don't know.
Right.
From your experience here in town, what do you see, as the kind of frontier and the next steps to service our veterans?
Well, I mean, I don't have a normal day.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
Right.
It can be someone calling to see how they can recover metals that they lost. That's something. Or it could be someone who doesn't have their discharge documents, which is the key to everything. So if there's one thing I can say to everybody, whether you're a veteran or a family member of a veteran, know where your discharge document is, your DD 214. If you don't have it, come and see me. I'll help you secure it. You need that for everything. And if you're a veteran, make sure your family knows where it is, because if you're unable to help yourself or locate it yourself, they will need that document. So getting that discharge document is really critical. The future, there is a program that will come out and actually be activated where we will issue ID cards to veterans. Right now, if you go to certain stores, unless you have a government-issued veterans ID card, that means you're in the VA medical system or you're a retiree or reservist or guard member or active duty, they won't give you a discount, even though they may claim that they support all veterans. Some stores will acknowledge that you have a veterans indicator on your driver's license, which you can get by going to the RMV, take a copy of your discharge document, your DD 214, and you can have a veterans indicator put on your driver's license. Some of the stores will honor that. I believe that's the next big step ahead for the VA, at least as we see it in our area, because we're very fortunate. We have a very strong VA system here, both medical and benefit-wise.
Now, we've talked this whole episode thus far about benefits, and we know that that's the core service and mission of what your department does. I also happen to know on some of your notes too, a lot of the services you provide are just talking to people, lending an ear and a friendly ear to people who don't necessarily maybe know where to go, of all generations, from all foreign conflicts of this, that, or the other thing. So I think, it's a wonderful resource here in Franklin. Dale's an incredible resource. Down at the Senior Center, we had his phone number and email up. We encourage all the veterans and their families and friends to encourage people to stop by if they have any questions, if they need any assistance. But it's not all that you do. You're turning this, in my view, your position into something more of a value added than just simply a starting point on trying to weed through the system of benefits and how to do that. So there's some other things that you've been doing in town, Dale,
Sure.
That we're going to talk about this afternoon. And the first one is what I've kind of joked with you, being you've become a de facto facilities manager of all the veterans monuments in town. And so we're going to pull up here something that some residents in town may be familiar with if they've been up to the town common here in the spring. We're redoing the War Memorial. So maybe just talk for a minute about your efforts on this and how this project came to fruition and what for the resident who's just walking by going, there's caution tape everywhere. What's going on up here? Maybe give them an idea of what we're doing here.
Well, we thought we'd just dig a big hole in the ground for a while and let people wonder what was going to happen. Actually, Jeff Nutting and I had a conversation that we weren't happy with how the site looked. We had some areas that needed some regrouting. We had some concrete that was chipped and needed repair. So great job by DPW. They came in and started to take out the concrete that was there. And we thought it would be maybe a day's job, and we started taking out the concrete with jackhammers and whatever. And we got down about 4 inches, thought, okay, we're almost there. 6 inches, well, we should be done. 10 inches, okay, let's stop here. We estimate that the actual foundation was about 22 inches deep.
Yeah.
So we took out 10, which got us to about the baseline of the monuments.
Yeah.
And a great job by DPW getting that done. The weather did hold us up a little bit between being too cold or too rainy.
Yep.
We were finally able to, yesterday, do the pour where the concrete's been reset. And this morning I drove by, and they were in the process of taking out the forms and cleaning up the area, so we'll be all set for Memorial Day. But a great job, and I can't say enough about Gus Brown, our buildings officer, and
these guys right here, the DPW.
these guys, the DPW crew, Brutus and his crew, did a great job. Carlos, and then the Lampazona brothers, who've donated their time.
Yep, the Lampazona brothers definitely donated their time.
They've donated their time to address this, and they did the pour yesterday, and they were there till I drove by late last night, and they were still there.
Yeah,
So.
and I think you mentioned it was going to be ready for Memorial Day, so that's something that residents, if they're viewing this over the next week or so, I know Franklin TV is going to take some footage too of the monument when it's done. But a great project, and certainly anything for our veterans. The second thing I wanted to mention was one thing that I think is a phenomenal resource and a phenomenal project that you do. Which is your work with our children and work with the schools. Now, there's a couple projects going on here, but I know a lot of families the kids may be running home and saying, we talked to Dale today, or Dale came in to read. Tell our audience a little bit about the book that you've been doing and some of the projects that you've been doing to the outreach in the schools.
Oh, it's great. I have the great privilege of going out to the different schools and taking this book, Veterans, Heroes in Our Neighborhood.
That's great.
And I don't necessarily read the book as much as talk through the book. It talks about different veterans and different things they've done
Yeah.
I have a great picture in here that I love. This one about the guy in the parachute. And I talked to them that, do you know that the person that's in charge of all the trucks in Franklin, when you see a snowplow in the wintertime, he's in charge of the snowplows, and he's in charge of the garbage trucks and the sidewalks and the streets. He used to jump out of airplanes just like that.
Yeah.
Brutus is
right.
airborne qualified. So talk about him. Then I talk about, do you know what a comptroller is? And kids don't know what a comptroller is. I said, well, the comptroller is someone who in Franklin's in charge of where all the money goes. She keeps track to make sure that it goes to the right place. Well, she's a veteran, and she's an Air Force veteran. And I talk about some others, police, fire, assistant to you and the TA. So I give as many plugs as I can. Yeah, Chrissy and everything. But it's great. The kids have great questions, and I encourage them, go home, talk to their parents, talk to their brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles about anybody they may know who may be a veteran, and tell them what they learn. I also encourage them, when they're with their parent or someone that they're trusted with, if they see someone wearing a hat or a jacket or a shirt and it says a pin that says veteran or Navy, Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, go up and say, thank you for your service. That means so much to veterans when someone does that. Tell them, don't talk to strangers unless you have somebody with you. But I tell you, it is so greatly appreciated when people do that.
And so you've been making it into all the schools? What grade levels?
I've targeted first grade, but I've talked to everyone from ECDC, the Early Childhood Development Center, to second grade. I've done now...
I was going to say, by the end of the school year this year, you're going to have done...
I will have hoped to have touched every school.
That's right.
I am scheduled at all but one, and I'll work on that one.
Yeah.
I'll leave it out at this time, but there's one that we've made contact, but we don't have a date yet. But everywhere else, I'm set. And Memorial Day coming up on the 27th, that Friday, I know that any veterans who may hear this before the 27th, Jefferson School has a veterans event where they invite veterans to come in and go around and talk to different classes. If you have any interest in doing that, contact me, and I'll put you in touch with the right people at the school.
Continuing on this theme of working in the schools, it's kind of an exclusive announcement here on Franklin TV. People will be watching this clip, months down the road too. But there's one other project you're working on that we've been working on with you to get done to help educate the kids in all the schools about the work that veterans are doing and the service that veterans are doing in honoring our veterans. Maybe talk about the Chair of Honor for a quick moment, Dale.
Sure. That's just something that's very, very near and dear to me. A lot of towns have created what they call the empty chair. Well, the empty chair sort of talks about those who served in combat or missing in action, killed in action, sort of the history. We created the Chair of Honor, and the Chair of Honor is really to represent not only those who have served, but also those who are serving, and also to recognize their families for the sacrifices they make. Because while your loved ones away doing their duty for our country, the families here are left picking up a lot of empty pieces. So we'll be presenting that Chair of Honor to the Town Council on next Wednesday, the 25th, at the Town Council meeting. And then our goal is to have it rotate through the various town offices, including the schools.
That's right.
And we will have a great plaque to go with it. So I want to recognize some people. Simon's Furniture, Jared Simons, they're donating the chair. Tom Peters and Jeff Poisson over at Franklin Custom Kitchens, they're donating a stand to hold up a plaque that will tell you about the chair. And also Amy Fletcher up at Paramount Industries in Medway helped me create the plaque itself. So just a great job by a great group of people who donated their time, their efforts to do this for us.
And it's a great kind of confluence here. I think that it's another thing to highlight about what you're doing in the services that you're offering to the community, the education piece of getting into the schools and going in and having a conversation with some of our youngest children about the heroes in the neighborhoods. But also then there's this Chair of Honor in the schools. So hopefully what the goal is to have a lot of those kids continue to make that connection of the heroes that are in this community who have served, our country over the past, 50, 60
Right.
years or whatever
Right.
the amount is. So that's great.
We're doing more at the schools too. I'm sorry to
keep on
interrupt, but
going. No,
sure.
keep going, Dale.
I've
Yeah.
also met with the guidance department up at Franklin High School, and I've made myself available as a resource to young men or women who are considering careers in the military, or at least using the military as a transition from high school. And I'm looking forward to continuing those conversations.
This is your mentor program.
My
Is it
mentor
great? Yeah.
program for the high school, which I think is something that's really needed. And we ask so much of these young students, age 17, 18, make your career decision for life. The military was great for me. It created a great opportunity. I entered the Army right out of high school. Was given the great privilege of attending West Point through that, and it's set me up for a great career post-military service.
And finally, one of the newest ancillary programs that we've been working on, and it's just about to kind of get started soon, is the Franklin Veterans Fund, which I also think is a really, really exciting and progressive project that you don't see in a lot of other communities necessarily. Give our audience an idea of the Franklin Veterans Fund, and then at the end, I'm going to ask you to recite exactly where to send donations.
Sure.
But go ahead and tell us the idea behind the Franklin Veterans Fund.
We have great benefits, from the VA, from the state, channeled through the town. But there are some people that just sort of fall through the cracks. People who are right on the cusp of being eligible for a certain benefit but aren't there. But they have a need, an emergency need, or something that's precluding them from being able to move forward. So the goal of the Franklin Veterans Fund is to have some resources available for me to assist those people. In the past, I've had a very, very small fund, but I bought eyeglasses for a veteran so that he could get a driver's license so he could get back to work. That was one. We have an oil program, which is supported through the Franklin Elks. Again, would like to be able to continue that program. We've paid rent for a veteran who just was going to lose his place and become homeless. Well, we're really trying to preclude that. And right now, there's limited resources for that. The other is to buy food cards, gift cards from different grocery stores locally to be able to support that family who, is getting help from maybe the food pantry but wants to do something different. And if I can give them a small gift card, the joy on their face when I'm able to do that is just what really puts you apart. I hope that someday, if we're able to create enough substance to the fund, maybe even create a small scholarship at the high schools, Tri-County and Franklin, for a son or daughter of a veteran or who maybe could use some assistance getting into their next school, whether it be a trade school or college. So that's sort of what we want to do.
And how exactly, I know we've talked about this
Right.
with a lot of the staff, with Jeff and the comptroller Susan and stuff. But I think you had a really great idea with, how to maybe, kind of get some of the funding for this Franklin Veterans
Sure.
Fund. And we were talking about how maybe having, donations maybe at a funeral, or talk about how maybe some of those ideas have been kicked around. I mean, certainly anybody can make a donation anytime they
Absolutely.
want, but I think you were kind of digging a little deeper and trying to think of some other creative ways that you've heard back from some of the feedback you've received
Right.
in the community and in other communities. Talk a little bit about that for a second.
Sure. So on my to-do list, which I'll know get done very soon,
Yeah,
is
that's
to
right.
talk to Sean O'Terry and Jim Ginley
Yeah.
at the two town funeral homes to just have the Franklin Veterans Fund added to their list of potential beneficiaries for people who don't necessarily want a lot of flowers. I mean, we went through this in my own family where we wanted to do something different. So we created a fund, a scholarship fund in our family instead of having a lot of flowers sitting around that would go away. So it's another option for people. And for veterans or families of veterans, this is a great way to continue to support those with whom we've served.
I thought it was a magnificent idea because, as we were talking before we got in here, I had the same experience recently with some of my in-laws. There was a couple passings in the family. Unfortunately, they didn't really need any additional assistance for the funeral or the burial services, right? And the folks were old enough where they didn't need tons of flowers around, and there was kind of this like, where do when people are grieving, there's this automatic, well, where do we make a donation in their memory, right?
Right.
And for those folks who are veterans, I thought it was an amazing idea. It was kind of funny how we came up with the idea when my family was going through this, and thought this is a really remarkable idea that I think a lot of people would feel very appreciative if that opportunity was there. So now it's on your to-do list.
It is. It'll be done.
And if the folks who are watching at home still aren't blown away with exactly all that you do, I know in a couple weeks we have Memorial Day, but for the folks who are watching this, a year from now or 6 months from now, you also organize our Memorial Day and Veterans Day events here in town, and maybe even more events. Maybe instead of just talking about the parade coming up, give us an idea of the annual calendar of the events that you help organize to honor our veterans throughout the whole calendar year.
Organize or will participate in.
Yeah.
We'll have the Memorial Day breakfast, which is held the Friday before Memorial Day. So this year it's the 27th.
Every year, right?
Every year. This year it's on Friday the 27th, 9 a.m. At the Franklin Elks. Call the Senior Center, 520-4945 to register. We still have a few spots left, so please do that. Okay. Then Flag Day. Last year, the Franklin Elks reinstituted their Flag Day ceremony, which was very, very well done. As we have more information, and I'm sure of the date, we'll get that out to everyone. I attended last year. I will attend again this year and support that. Then we have Veterans Day. We have a Veterans Day breakfast, which, again, is held the Friday before Veterans Day. Someday in the future, maybe we'll change that date to do it actually on Veterans Day, but right now we're still targeting Veterans Day the Friday before. So those are specific events. Other things we've done is we took a tour up to the World War II Museum up in Natick. A great trip and event. Those who attended absolutely loved it. And I've already talked to the people from the museum that I'm looking to reschedule that. So we'll continue to look at ways to expand what we do.
And I know, I'm continuing to go a little off script here, but I know that there's some other folks, maybe for our audience, talk about some of the other organizations in town who help volunteer an incredible amount of time, to help you do the work that you do. But just give them a quick plug, because I think we wouldn't be anywhere without a lot of the volunteers. And one of the things I've certainly learned here in Franklin is there's an extremely strong community fabric here, and I think that's really represented in my early tenure here in the veterans community that's here. So give them a quick plug for the volunteer hours and the work that they do.
Well, what I'll do is talk about the Veterans Council that we established, which is something that we didn't have. And we have so many, as you said, so many great organizations that are doing things, but we were sort of in silos. So now we meet once a month. In fact, today's a Thursday, third Thursday of the month. We're going to meet tonight. So we do meet the
third Thursday of every month.
Third Thursday every month, 7 o'clock. Right now we're meeting at the Franklin Elks. And veterans are welcome. So please come and give your ideas and maybe learn what some of the organizations, the VFW, the American Legion, the Franklin Elks, the Franklin Lions Club, the Franklin Rotary has been very supportive. The DAV, Disabled American Vets out of Milford, they attend our meetings. And each group has great activities going on, and I can't thank them enough for the support they've given to me just by being there. And I was very humbled to be honored by the Franklin Elks earlier this year in support of the work that we do for veterans. So thanks to them.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked a lot about the community groups. We've talked a lot about the services. To end off here, Dale, I have to at least ask. You mentioned before when you were a young guy, you hopped into the Army. Give our audience a little sense of your service to this country.
I had a great time in the service. As I said, I enlisted in 1968. So it was a very interesting time to do something like that. But I was fortunate in that I knew I had a very good opportunity to go to a couple special schools, and that came through, so I was able to go to, attend, and graduate from West Point. I then went into the Signal Corps, served with the 1st Cavalry Division at Fort Hood, Texas. I spent some time at White Sands Missile Range working with a NATO group doing some testing of different nuclear devices and the impacts they would have on communications equipment. Just a great time to serve our country. And now I continue to try to serve by doing this. In addition, I work with a number of alumni groups from West Point to create opportunities for others to serve our country. So I couldn't ask for anything better.
Dale, thanks so much for your service to this community. Thanks so much for your service to this country. And thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you. And if I could just end with one thing. People ask, who's a veteran?
Yeah.
Well, my definition of a veteran is someone, whether they served for 1 year or 35 years, whether they served in the National Guard, the Reserves, active duty, whatever, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard. They, at some point in their life, wrote a check payable to the government of the United States of America for an amount up to and including their life. That's a veteran.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Dale, thank you.
Thank
Again,
you.
Thanks for being here today.
Take care.
Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Jamie Helen. I'm the Deputy Town Administrator. We'll see you again very soon here on Our Franklin.